Good evening, everyone. We're back again. Um, I hope you like my new introduction. I designed that this week. I think I'm pretty clever, especially for a bloke who's got no tech device. I know. Anyway, tonight we'll hopefully have a good show. As I said, I got the Reverend Tim Costello coming on, and then after that, going to talk. Like I'm going to have one of my volunteers, Jessica, come on and talk about how she's been handling the lockdown, the shutdown with COVID, and just let her share a bit. And then I'm going to, right, we don't have another guest after that, but what I'm going to do is quickly share a little bit about the Frankston Community Support. As I said in my promo today, is that I've actually learned a little bit about them, is that they do more than just give out a couple of meals and a couple of this and a little bit of that. Right, so I'm going to have a little bit of a talk about what they do. But anyway, I'm not going to let Tim just sit there on his own. I'm going to bring him up, and here we are. Good evening, Tim. How are you?
Good to be with you, Glenn. I have to say your internet connection is worse than when I was speaking to my friend in Fiji this afternoon. So I hope people are hearing me.
Yeah, well, I can hear you. Well, I think so. Unfortunately, as I was just saying to you a second ago, I think it's during the COVID, there's a lot more people using the internet at nights than there is actually normally than what there is any other time. Well, you've had an interesting career, Tim. Well, the Reverend Tim Costello, we should say. Right? You've had an interesting life, an interesting career. And I've read up a little bit about you. Actually, from being in the ministry to a lawyer, to Parliament, to weren't you on the city council or something as well at one stage in the city? All right. So look, tell us a little bit about your background first, then we'll get into talking about a few things.
Yeah, so I'm a Melbourne boy and have lived all my life in Melbourne. Except for 4 years where my wife and I lived in Zurich. I was studying theology in Switzerland. But I'm a very local, proud Melbourne boy who's been blessed to work for some great organizations and travel the world. When I was CEO of World Vision, I went to over 30 or 40 countries. Not the sort of places that Australian tourists go. It's not the party beaches of Thailand or the beautiful architecture of Berlin and Prague, but to Zimbabwe, to Somalia, to places like Mosul, which ISIS took, and we were working in the camps with the victims of ISIS who were Yazidis and others who were being sometimes crucified, executed, beheaded. So my journey, which I've written up in a book, a memoir called A Lot with a Little, from Blackburn, Main Street, Blackburn, which is where I grew up, where my parents lived in a weatherboard house for 63 years, to right around the world. I look back on it now at this age and go, yeah, a blackie boy got out and hopefully did a little bit of good. So that in a nutshell is a bit of my story, Glenn.
Yeah. Well, actually, I met you a few years ago, and this is when I had a little bit of a past, and I was a good boy once, right? And I was actually working in the streets of St Kilda and that with the drug addicts and heroin addicts and homeless and everything like that. And I come down and met you at Collins Street, Little Collins Street, wasn't it? It was back at Little Collins Street when you were in there.
Yeah, it was.
Doing meals. So we've actually been there, right, together in a bit of a journey. And then what was it like actually working in the city with the homeless?
Yeah, well, I worked for 10 years in St Kilda, and we set up a drug rehab centre and a house for runaway kids. St Kilda was, when I started there in 1984, the catchment area for runaway kids from often good families, even in the suburbs. A catchment area for mentally ill, for drug addicts, sex workers, and particularly for people who may not have fitted into our more respectable suburbs. So my 10 years in St Kilda, which ended up me being mayor of St Kilda, was working with the people on the edge, people who felt judged, that their life patterns and behaviours, their addictions didn't work. So I took that into Collins Street. I was the minister of the Baptist church in Collins Street, and we literally had people sleeping on the steps of the front porch of Collins Street beneath the beautiful Corinthian pillars. It's a magnificent church. And people were saying, oh, get rid of them. They're an embarrassment. We don't like coming into church and seeing them there. And I remember saying, well, if we have to step over homeless people to come to worship God, might God be saying something to us? Might he be whispering in our ear about our responsibilities? And out of really asking that question, Urban Seed was born. So when you came to see me, Glenn, I would have been running Urban Seed. It was a feeding program. We had housing in Little Burke Street for homeless. We had drug detox work going because the heroin crisis meant the back lanes of Collins Street and Burke Street had more people dying of heroin overdoses than people dying on Victorian roads. It was that much an epidemic in those days. I had 10 years there. So 10 years in St Kilda, 10 years in Collins Street with Urban Seed before I went on to World Vision. So we would have met in those days, Glenn.
Oh, yes, we certainly did. Actually, people might laugh out there at the moment. Because one of the times we met, I was actually in Salvation Army uniform as well. Right.
Good on you. I don't remember that, but I believe you.
I was actually asked to come down and, because of the work that I was doing with heroin addicts, I come down and I was actually working in the Russell Street. The courthouse is in Russell Street.
Oh, yeah. Where the police station and the magistrates court was.
That's right. Yep, I was out there, and then I was over at Dandenong.
Yep.
Like by name of Major Ted Gray.
Yep, I remember Major Ted. Yep.
Yeah, so, mate, both you and him were both patriarchs.
I think you look very good in the uniform. I think you should take it up again, Glenn.
So, Jessica said, rubbish, I don't believe you. That actually knows me. But yeah, actually, I had real long hair then too.
Well, you're making me envious. One of my friends says, look, all men are given a certain number of hormones. If someone who used theirs growing hair, that's their choice.
Mate, we're nearly the same age, and I've still got hair.
Yeah, look at me. Look at me. Stop boasting. I just can't get the fringe right in the morning. It takes me ages.
Mate, my fringe has dropped under my lip. So, but anyway, Tim, there's been a lot of things. Actually, you've got an Order of Australia too. Oh, so it's really good to actually have people like you in our local community, right? And you're a person that should be in our community. We should be looking after you. And there's things that you're actually advisory here in our community to a few of the churches and that. You want to explain what you do in those areas?
Yeah, so we moved to Frankston a little over a year ago and have loved it. The sort of image that Sam Newman and others gave to Frankston, we haven't discovered. We find it a wonderful community. Challenges like everywhere, but it's been fantastic for us. I've now hit 65, so I'm trying to ease into retirement. I'm still working, but I swim each day. I had a swim this morning, Glenn, out in that freezing water. So Frankston brings, the best of, a beachside suburb with a sort of acceptance. You can go to the Frankston food court with your hair in curlers, a fag hanging out of your mouth, your slippers on, and nobody will look at you twice. And I like that about Frankston. With others who got coiffed hair and have, been dolled up. So it's a very accepting community. Look, with some of the churches, I've been advising them on their social programs. There's some great youth outreach and feeding programs. I've been slowly easing into Frankston life, speaking at both the Frankston Rotaries, and I've been connecting with some of the local street and discovering that wherever you are, who you are isn't a solitary individual. It's who you are in relationship with. Community actually is the best expression of the individual self. We are made for community. I've always believed that. And that's slowly happening for me here in Frankston also.
So how long you been here in Frankston now then, Tim?
Well, it might be 18 months now. I can't quite remember. And it was, it was a big decision. We'd lived in the St Kilda, Alstonwick area all our lives. Well, all our married lives. We've been married 41 years, except for a short time in Zurich where I studied theology over there. So big rift, big separation, leaving St Kilda, a lot of friends, great community. But in one sense, when I finished at World Vision, it was, okay, this stage of life isn't being the big bull in the paddock, the big rescuer, hero going to humanitarian disasters, the big, at times, media presence, commentator. I need to move to being a mentor, to being someone who actually helps the next generation of leaders, who wants to pass on whatever little wisdom I have, rather than still at this age trying to do. And I think the wisdom in life, Glenn, is you live the first half of your life grabbing whole new things to do, challenges and opportunities. You've got to live the second half of your life literally letting go, opening your hand and letting go. You let go of a bit of strength. You let go of hair. Have you noticed?
No.
Until finally you even let go of life itself. And wisdom is saying it's a different phase. You can't be the person just saying, I'll take this on and I'll stretch and I'll do more. But actually, I'll step back and I'll encourage and mentor and give advice to those who are in that first phase of life. So I'm trying to frame my life living more according to that style.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, I've actually been in Frankston 1985 when I first moved here. Moved out for a while. Actually, when I was in the Salvation Army uniform, I was actually living in Emerald. So I was up there. Then moved back to this area. But I've seen some massive changes here in Frankston over the years. Actually, where I'd done theology was actually at CRC up at the top of Muralnuck Road with Don Dawson, an old patriarch here of Frankston.
Yep.
Yeah, CRC Church.
Yep, I know it. Yep.
Oh, you knew Don, did you, or not?
I did. Not well, but I did.
Yeah, no. He was actually a founding church person here. And he started off in, I think, was 1920s, 1930s.
Amazing. Amazing.
He even met Smith Wigglesworth, I think he said once.
Wow. Well, your listeners won't know that name, but I do.
Yeah.
A great miracle worker.
Absolutely. But yeah, like I've seen many, many, many changes here in Frankston. I'd say you have even over this last 18 months, right? But I like what you just said about the individuals in the community, and what this program, or what we've tried to set up here, Frankston Community Connect, is joining the communities together, right? All the different services, all the people in our community. And like I said, and bringing people like yourself that are actually showing people that you, Tim Costello, are actually part of this community now.
Yeah.
And
Look, I love that. I often reflect on that great academic film, Crocodile Dundee. And there is Mick in America, blown away that every American seems to have a counselor, a therapist. And Mick scratches his head and he's puzzled. And he says, "What's the matter with you people? Don't you have mates?" And the American says, "If you Aussies don't all have counselors, therapists, how do you solve your problems?" And Mick says, "Oh, well, in Walkabout Creek, where I come from, if you've got a problem, you go to the pub. Wally behind the bar serves you a beer, and over a beer, you tell him your problem. Wally ends up telling the whole bar your problem, and soon, no more problem." Now, it's a terrible counselling technique. Don't do that. But the truth is, when we think about our problems, they're mainly relational. They're problems that I'm hurt. I can't forgive. Should I confront? Should I draw a line in the sand and wipe that person off? And what I think Crocodile Dundee was showing was that actually in community, you actually discover what it is to be connected, to deal with your pain, to be vulnerable, to open up to others, to trust them. Now, counselling is great. Absolutely, I support that. But community is actually where you deal with a whole lot of the stuff that's, impossible to deal with just as an individual, just on your own. That's how I'd put it.
yeah, no, 100% agree with you. And do you know something that's amazing? I was having a conversation with a person today, right? And you just said exactly what I said.
Well, did you feed me the lines?
But we were talking about, right, counselling and things like that. We were talking about one of our biggest problems is unforgiveness and forgiving people, right? And unfortunately, we've got a society at the moment that is actually do not know how to forgive.
Yeah.
Right. And we see a lot of the problems. That's why we see homelessness. That's why we see addiction.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes we see, and I stand to be corrected, right? But we see domestic violence, alcoholism. We see all that kind of stuff because today's society, right, doesn't work as a community and working together to deal with these sort of things. And forgiveness and unforgiveness is a major problem.
I personally believe that we are made for community. Our capitalist market-based society says we're made to be individuals, and we plug our preferences into the market, and it allocates resources and spits back consumer goods, and we buy them and feel somehow that we're fulfilled. I don't believe that. I actually believe that we are made for community, not as individuals just to consume, but as community people to love, to forgive, to serve, to actually find our true self in saying, what can I do and give to someone else? And I personally believe that feeling empathy and compassion and then saying, what can I do, is the most profound thing about being human. And forgiveness is right up there, because if we can't forgive, as someone has said, it's like taking a poison because you want to poison someone else, and it only poisons yourself. It's hard to forgive. I know the hurt goes very deep, but to be set free, I think forgiveness is right up there.
Oh, absolutely. And I've got to say this, the person there, right, I just got to put this up, right? She thinks I set her up because, well, Jessica, I know this, we are ad-libbing. I know a lot of people actually sit down and write up everything for an interview and everything like that. But to me, honesty and reality is actually better, especially when you're interviewing someone. And sometimes it's actually better just to ad-lib it.
Yeah.
Because There's nothing made up. You know, there's no questions or things that are sitting there saying, I better ask him this question or that question. It's ad libbing, and exactly what you did and what we're doing at this present time.
You know, deep down, I think humans only have one question. And their real question is, do I matter? Do I matter to others? Do I matter to God? Do I matter? And meaning comes from actually saying, yes, I matter. There are people I can love who love me back, who recognize me, who speak to me. That sense that I matter can only be answered in community. It's impossible without community to answer the question, do I matter? I might have this long list of achievements. My CV might be huge. What does it matter if there aren't people who actually mirror back, you are important to me. I enjoy your company. Thank you for what you did. That actually is what communicates that I matter.
Yeah, no, look, I 100% agree. And we've all got a background. You know, some of us saying that it's not as privileged as some that actually get. And I was talking to this person today that I come from a dysfunctional background, extremely dysfunctional, alcoholic mother and stepfather, you know, institutions and everything like that. Extremely dysfunctional. And one of the greatest things that actually brought me into changing my life is actually getting involved with the community, right? For what I actually do in this community, right? And what I've been doing for years and years and years. Well, once before I thought I was just doing it for myself, right? To fix me, right? And it wasn't.
Yeah.
I realized that a lot of the problems that I had are just, you know, and myself and you know what we do to get rid of those problems, right? And not everyone's like us to, right?
Yeah. I'm really inspired by the mayor of Mornington. Now, I wish he was the mayor of Frankston, but he's the mayor of, you know, a more upper class area, Mornington. And I'll tell you why I said that. I was sitting in Frankston Food Court having a coffee, and my wife said, "It's great here." I said, "Why?" She said, "Nobody in Frankston recognizes you. Nobody watches the ABC and reads the Age. They don't know who you are." And just at that moment, an elderly couple at the next table came over. Tim Costello, "Oh, can we have our picture taken?" And my wife said, "Oh, I was just saying here in Frankston, it's so good because no one recognizes him." And there was a long silence, and they said, "We're from Mornington." In other words, we're just that little bit higher than as they would see it, than the people in Frankston. But the mayor of Mornington is a young guy called Sam Hoon. He's just 31. Sam, at the age of 21, was homeless, drug affected, terrible dysfunctional family that had busted up completely, just like your story, Glenn. And he got involved in a community church, and they believed in him. And that belief in him and that overcoming of rejection and hurt and addiction and problems has led in 10 years to that young man being the mayor of Mornington. Isn't that a fantastic story?
Mate, that it is a fantastic story. Look, it's amazing what you can actually achieve in yourself. And, you know, I see that in a lot of young people that we dealt with over the years. I was involved with Teen Challenge. I suppose you know who Teen Challenge was.
I do. Yep.
Right? And here's a praise one to, you know, like not many people out there will know Normie Rowe. Right? You know Normie Rowe, of course. Right, Normie Rowe, myself, Bill Mullenberg, which you probably
I know, Bill. Yep.
And Focus on the Family. We actually wrote the books or done the thing, how to drug proof your kids.
Yep.
Right. So now we used to go into the schools and use that as a community thing to actually work with people with realizing what drug usage that your kids are in or anything relapsing and all that kind of stuff. So there's all, you know, as a community, we need to, you know, really stick together and look on these things and help the people like this mayor, right, so they can actually change. Because
Yeah. So Sam at the beginning of COVID organised what he called a People's Army. That was volunteers in Mornington taking food to shut-ins. And I think that's a great story. Look, I know today, and I think they're probably on the line today, there's a great little organisation that started out of some people in Mornington, lived experience of a family member that suicided, called Are You All Right, Mate?
Yep.
And when you actually see how people transform grief, despair, the worst nightmare humans can face, into care, love, opening up, affirming others who are vulnerable, this Frankston Mornington Peninsula has got a lot to be proud of.
Oh, it is. And I've always said when I first come here, Frankston is the gateway to the peninsula, right? And hey, listen, see, what's this snobby stuff about Mornington, right?
Didn't come from me.
We got houses up on top of Olives Hill that are worth over millions of dollars.
No, totally right. Look, the gateway to Peninsula is the actual interesting story. I was speaking down at Mornington. Greg Hunt was there. The mayor before Sam was there. And I said, oh, it's great. I've just moved to the Mornington Peninsula. I live in Frankston. Afterwards, the mayor of Mornington, prior to Sam, who I was just talking about, came up to me and very considered voice said, sorry, Frankston is not on the Mornington Peninsula. And I just picked up there was a little bit of feeling in that comment.
There always is. Mornington always thinks they're one step higher than us.
So let me talk about that. I think it's very human, true of all humans, to actually have a story to tell you about yourself, about why you are superior to someone or superior in some way. And the difficulty is that when that superiority is race-based, look what's happening in America when we know that racism is still a profound structural evil, really America's original sin, superiority. Whether it's wealth, whether it's sometimes gender, men feeling superior to women, that human natural inclination to have a story to tell you about yourself, why you're superior, is something we really need to deal with. We are all fragile humans just trying to get by, Glenn. That's what we are.
We are.
We're all the same.
We certainly are. We're all, as the old saying, we're all tarred with the same brush.
Yep.
Right. Look, I'm old school, right? And over the years, I've actually mellowed a lot, believe it or not. I wasn't always as calm and nice as I am now. but we all mellow and we'd all learn, right? And we all change. And as I said, I've seen Frankston changed over the years. Like the Pines, take the Pines, for instance. I was actually the VP of the Pines Soccer Club, right?
Right. Good on you.
Right. So, and, I worked, I actually ministered in the Pines going back in the 80s and stuff like that. Right. With, the street people in the streets here in Frankston back in the 80s and the early 90s. And, I've seen so much change here in Frankston. But what I saw, and I know I'm bragging about this, but it's something to brag about with our community. And Mornington Peninsula, Mornington Council didn't do this. Frankston Community over the bushfire repeal, right? We put a thing out there, Frankston Community Connect. I was approached, and I got a couple of girls. I got to get Carolyn, Lisa, and Jessica, Trudy, and Brent, and Peter from, and a few others. They come to me, and we actually set up something, right? This is how strong our community is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We put something together. In a day and a half, we had over 10 trucks load of stuff donated to here from the Frankston community, right? We did get a couple sneak in from Somerville and places like that, but it was still Frankston community.
Yeah.
And it was shipped that out to all over for the bushfire repeal, the waters and everything like that. And approximately weighed out to about 126 tonnes.
That is extraordinary generosity. And let me say, I am not surprised. When I was CEO of World Vision for 14 years, I asked to do a calculation of where our most generous donors came from, who sponsored a child through World Vision. I was staggered. National donor base, because World Vision is a national charity. I was staggered to find the greatest giving came from the poorer postcodes. Not from the Turaks, from the poorer postcodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I went to an earthquake response in Nepal. They had a terrible earthquake. And I was very moved when I came back that a donation had come in from homeless people in Cranbourne. They had seen the suffering of the Nepalese in the earthquake, and though they had virtually nothing, they had passed around the hat and sent in a donation with a letter for the poor people in Nepal. When you've actually struggled and you know what that's like, the empathy, oh dear, I know that feeling. I can do something. I think that's remarkable. Your story in the bushfires, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. Actually, I just saw Roger's little thing come up. Right, I actually, what is it? You're all right, mate. I was Cameron's his son, isn't it?
That's right, Roger and Cameron, who started this up.
I was actually having a good long conversation with Cameron this afternoon, and I've opened up an invitation to have them on next week.
Great,
fantastic, because it's so important. And here's another thing that is so important, right? And I know that you've had a little bit of involvement. Is that we've got this Are You OK Day, right? We have men out there that are actually suffering just as much as anyone else, right? We've all got to pretend we're tough. Like I've got tattoos, rings, long, not long hair anymore, but I look like I'm a half a biker, which I'm not. I like my Harleys, but I don't. But yeah, like men take it so hard to admit that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah,
we have a real problem, and now, and so I'm going to support this. Are you all right, mate?
No, that's great, and I commend Roger and Cameron, and what's come out of a family story, and to have the courage to do what they're doing, I think is brilliant. And what you said about men, absolutely right. We know that I think it's 8 or 9 people in Australia kill themselves each day, suicides. I know that the majority of those are men. That scripting from an early age about a man not admitting weakness is just so devastating. Vulnerability is so profound. Brené Brown is an American psychologist, and Brené Brown has written on vulnerability. What many people don't know is Richmond Footy Club brought out Brené Brown, and they had the Dustin Martins covered in tats and the footballers sitting at her feet as she explained why true strength for men was in being vulnerable. Richmond Footy Club put down the 2 premierships they've won in part to Brené Brown teaching men to be vulnerable. Isn't that great?
Oh, it's fantastic, and look, I know that I'm just going to be careful how I choose, because unfortunately I do not have any political correctness about me whatsoever. And sometimes I say what I say, and I say, well, that's my opinion, so if you don't like it, forget it. But no, we as men, right? And I see it a lot in this area because Frankston has been just a working class suburb, right? And the men in this area have always been the toughies, right? They've been the old painters and dockers of old, and they've been the roustabouts and the roughies and the fishermen. Nothing wrong with fishermen. I'm a fisherman myself, but they've always been there as the hard people. And we see a lot of those kind of things. And even in Frankston today, we actually need for men to step up and say, I need help.
Yeah.
I know this is getting a little bit off what we were talking about, but it's all part of everything, because during this COVID-19, there's men sitting at home that are suffering. I know at the moment I've got a bloke that I'm trying to deal with is actually going through that, but not just one, but I've got about 3 or 4 of them, right, that are actually going through hell at the moment, and they've actually stepped up to the plate and said, I need help, right? So anyway, that's my opinion anyhow.
I can only endorse that. And when you actually ask the question, why is it so hard for men? There might be a whole range of reasons, but whatever the stigma of actually as a male saying, I need help, we actually need to communicate. All of us need help. So many of us suffer from depression, from illness. We just need help. I often reflect, Glenn, that women, when they say to each other, let's do coffee, know exactly what they're going to do. And an hour or 2 hours can pass and they'll emotionally workshop all their feelings. When men say, do you want a coffee? They'll meet, drink it in 3 minutes, then feel awkward that they finished their coffee and not have anything to say.
That sounds like a why sometimes.
Exactly, because we're transactional. We said we're having a coffee. Oh, we finished the coffee. Oh, that must mean I need to go. And whatever the scripting for men is, we actually need to break that down.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you, Tim. Mate, we can keep talking for ages if you've got the time. Right?
I'm probably going to have to go in a few minutes, actually, Glenn. I've got another Zoom I've got to do.
Mate, you're always zooming around somewhere.
I am. I'm zooming around the world these days.
Mate, I had to do the test run with your lovely wife, Mez, right? Because you were off with zooming.
Well, the honesty is I'm not on Facebook. I was on Facebook for a nanosecond, and I asked my 3 kids if I could be their friend, and my 3 kids all rejected me, and I was so devastated. I decided I can't cope with rejection. I'm getting off Facebook. My wife's on it. I've not been on it since.
Unfortunately, we got to live on it these days. So you're on Facebook now, live.
Yeah, on my wife's Facebook, that's right.
Oh, you are. Yeah, but look, quickly before, as Tim said, he's got to go. Right, it's been great having you on, Tim. But if anyone got any questions out there they'd like to ask Tim or throw out there to us, ask before Tim goes, because this might be the only chance that you get, because I might not ever have it. You might not ever want to come back on again. No, it doesn't look like anyone wants to talk to you, Tim.
No. It's a pleasure. I've been seeing some of the comments. They're great comments.
Yeah,
so let me just, in behalf of the audience, commend Glenn for the work you're doing. I just think it's fantastic. All power to your arm, Glenn.
Look, I've got a good team behind me as well.
That's great.
I know that the one that keeps throwing up all the Facebook little pages and everything, that's Carol. She's part of Frankston Community Connect.
Great.
And then like Jessica's there and Peter's there, and there's a couple of us. And then, of course, we've got our own organisation, right? Carol's actually got Frankston History that she runs. Peter's from 3199 Beach Patrol. We've got, that's the thing about fishing. So we're actually trying to put the community together. Let's just say a huge, that was a nice, thank you, Cameron. So anyway, you've got to run and zoom away.
I better run. It's been an absolute delight, and keep it up. I think you're pushing on an open door when you are talking about community, Glenn.
Yeah, I think it's so important to any community. It's not just Frankston, but if we look, as you can't see it probably up above us, it says changing lives. And I'll tell you a quick one before you go. When I was with Major Ted, I was running around trying to save the world, trying to save everyone. Every drug addict there was, every homeless person, every street person. I was trying to save the whole lot of them. He grabbed me aside one day and says, Glenn, you kid, he said, I love your, and you'll understand what I would say, I love your evangelistic heart of William Booth. And he said, but unfortunately, you can't save everyone. He said, but if you can just grab one person and save them and help them, you've done your job. So my logo is actually saving lives, one life at a time. And that's so important about it.
That's the secret to not getting burnt out too. So very, very smart. All right, I better wander, Glenn.
Yep. And I've got to finish off this show on my own.
I'm sorry. I reckon you can do it.
No, mate, thank you so much, Tim, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think it's been one of the shows, my friend. Thank you very, very much. Right.
Okay. God bless. All the best.
Bye.
See ya.
Right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I'm not going to stay much longer because I know you all want to go and watch your Netflix. But there's, right, we can all change the world, but we can only change somebody's world. That's a good one, Jess. I agree with that. I know. But anyway, what I did want to talk about, and this is another new thing that I'm trying to learn how to do this, right, is a little bit about Frankston Community Support. Right, and I was having a bit of a gap with Steve today, right, and I'd love to get them on, right, but unfortunately there's certain things why they can't come on. So I've actually got to put the hat on for a minute, right, and be Frankston Community Support and just talk about the great work that they actually do, right? Because here I am thinking, oh, they're helping out. As we know that 5 days a week at the moment, I don't know if you do know this, but 5 days a week, they actually have free meals between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And, you know, like if you go down there, if you're homeless and things like that, you need something to eat, or if you're doing it hard and everything like that, just go down there and introduce yourself, and there's actually a feed there. Right? Another thing which I didn't know about this, but remember, not everyone can. You have to be eligible for the support from Frankston community. You must be a local in Frankston community, and the government area, right? Includes homelessness, right? So even if you're homeless, you must have the postcode of Frankston, right? Now, things that they actually support and they give out at the moment. Thank you, Carol, again. I'll put this up. There it is there. Is that it, Carol? Frankston Community, Frankston Support. Thank you. I think that's it. Right, at the moment, what they're doing, they're getting ready for winter, and they've got emergency ponchos, hand warmers, jackets, other winter gear, vouchers to assist people with this essential clothing and keeping dry, and over the next few coming months of winter coming up. Righto. There was something else that I saw them doing. Like I said, this here I'm reading off a Word thing. Right. Oh yeah. If you want food or things like that, they will actually deliver it. Well, you've got to actually ring them up, right? And prior arrangement. Now the number, Carol, can you find the number or put it up for me? You're there, please. Carol, that's my little assistant. All right. So the number actually is 9783-7284, right, if you need assistance from there. Now, another thing that they can help you do is if you are really struggling paying bills and everything like that, right, they will actually help, right? But once again, you've got to be a resident of Frankston. You've got to prove that you're in dire needs and all that kind of stuff, right? And it says here, for those who are homeless or don't have a phone, you can come down to 35 B Street and they will give you a phone card. Now, these are the sort of things that personally myself, I didn't realise that Frankston Support done all this kind of stuff. So once again, it's another community service that's here in Frankston, and it's great. Well, listen, I think it's been a good show. Thank you, Carol. Where we go? What have we got? What have we got? Frankston Net. There it is. Jessica, believe you are doing phone assessments. Right. Jessica, I believe you are doing phone assessments at the moment. Right. Yes, they are. All right, because what was the question, Jessica? Sorry. Because they're all going too fast for you. Slow down. I'm an old. I need my glasses. Ah, right. Yes, they are doing assessments. Well, now, Carol actually, they are. Here we are, the number. Thank you, Carol. Right. There's the number if you want to get in contact with someone from Frankston Support. Right. Like I said, great service, absolutely great service. But there's a lot of great services getting around. Right. Over the next few weeks coming up, I'm hoping to have Peninsula Health come on. Right. I've been in contact with them. Nimoy's, Brotherhood of St. Lawrence. Right. These are all the local groups that are actually here that do have services, right? I'm trying to get Frankston Youth here, right? The services they have for the youth at the moment just need that to be approved again. So, look, there's a lot of people that I'm trying to get on. And next week, hey, we'll get this one for them. Are you okay? Or were you okay? Right? The people that Stu and I talked about before, right? The men's thing. Because I think it's important that men actually have somewhere out they can actually turn to. So, if there's nothing more to talk about, all right, here, what's this? I have heard they assist in homeless with car registration. All right, thanks, Robert. I didn't know that. Right, like I said, the Frankston Community Support do a lot of for this Frankston and the people that actually need it. Right, anyway, excuse me. I'm going to sign out tonight. And hopefully that you've enjoyed the show and that I can, oh, right here, that's true too. You can go down there and there's brochures. That's, like Carol's just put up there. Yeah, I'm all right, Cameron, mate. I think I need a smoke. No, I'm joking. So, no, I'm fine. It's just age, Cameron. Thank you. But yeah, there's brochures and everything there on Frankston Community Support, exactly what they do. Right, I hope everyone's had a good night. And it's hard to sit here and talking on your own. Also, Headspace and Youth Resource Centres. Yes, they're actually good groups. So that's who I'm going to be trying to get in over the next few weeks. Thanks, Glenn. Good night. Oh yeah, there. Thanks. Thank you, Carol. Right, everyone, thank you for listening in. And it was great to have Tim Costello in, AO, or one of those orders of Australia. Whenever you get them. Anyway, I will see you all next week. Enjoy it, please. Hey, listen, I'm going to put up a little thing. Here it goes.